The #1 highest paid skill in network marketing, it's not inviting, it's not prospecting or closing or follow-up, it is leadership. Hey friends, welcome to episode 1 of RJTV. I am so stoked to be here. I'm your host, Rachel Jackson. I'm also the founder of Soul CEO, where we help groom direct sales leaders how to build a profitable business online with technology and systems, and also with great purpose. And I'm so pumped about this video series. And it's really exciting because I'm gonna be bringing this bite-sized, digestible information that hopefully you guys can consume and up-level your skill so you can take your business to 6 figures and beyond in internet network marketing. And when I was thinking about where we can start, it made logical sense. Episode 1, start with your story. I could talk about how we've generated, tens of thousands of leads and have rolled over 100 or 1,000 people on social media and, all these great things, YouTube, Facebook, email lists. I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about, right? But I figured in my normal self-defaming fashion that I might as well just start with my biggest epic failures. And because I am so passionate about leadership and raising up the next remnant and generation of amazing servant leaders, I figure why not take you back to where I failed miserably? Because I figure it's okay, if you guys can hear from my experience what I did right, what I did wrong, maybe you can file that away. And when you're in a situation where you want to say something or do something or react away, maybe you can kind of remember little RJ on your shoulder to say, don't do that. Don't do it, okay? So let's dive right into my 3 biggest mistakes. And guys, I want you to know before we tell you, oh God, this is gonna be so good. Before I dive into these fully, I want you to know that we have led teams on a massive scale. We've done over $100 million in revenue, have built teams of tens of thousands of distributors, hundreds of thousands of customers all across the globe. And we've done a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong, and I wanna save you. So the first biggest mistake, leading at a super high level. I want you guys to know that in a very short period of time, I went from a failing, struggling network marketing failure to a 6-figure a month producer. I'm talking about in a year's time. So imagine going from nothing to something, 0 to hero, and being 26. I don't care if you're 26, 36, 76, if you've never led at a high level and all of a sudden now you are making a lot of money and responsible for a lot of people and the leader and the organizational kind of dictating the speed and the pace and the culture, you're bound to make a lot of failures, make mistakes. You're bound to fail. And so what I did, I realized mistake #1 was that I pulled rank. And this is really interesting because I think because I didn't have a strong leadership foundation built before I led at a high level. I didn't go through leadership training a ton, and I didn't have mentors in high school. I worked in retail, a lot of dead-end jobs. I worked as a manager, right? So I managed people. And when we think about management and we think about corporate America or the typical corporate structure, when you're a manager, you pretty much have your title. And because you've been assigned or employed at this specific title, then you have all of the people that you are above, the people that you look up to, the people that you answer to. You have all these people that you manage. And so the moment that I started to see great success and I had the title, aka the rank in network marketing, I think I kind of started to believe my own press. That I was, a top earner, top female earner in my company, one of the fastest growing leaders in that company, and everybody was telling me how good I was. And because I was in the top 6 income earner total, I think that there was a part of me, just really candidly, guys, I hope you guys appreciate this, bare in my heart and soul right here. I believed that my rank kind of preceded me. When I came into the room, duh, shouldn't you follow me? I'm an intergalactic superstar, elite ambassador, or whatever, right? And so I I failed to make quality interactions and quality relationships and bonds. And I figured that people would just kind of take my word for what it was, which I thought it was gold. And I'm like, well, aren't you crazy not to follow me? I pulled my rank. Well, I am this. Well, don't you know who I am? Don't you know what I've done? I mean, you guys can almost smell like this stinky, like PU. That is the stinky, crusty, nasty ego talking. And that was my biggest leadership mistake, was that I believed my own press. I pulled rank. I figured that just based on my stack and my production, my monthly income, that everyone should follow me and keep following me. But I learned something so good from John C. Maxwell, who I had the pleasure of being personally mentored by my husband and I and several others for a year straight. And one of the things he shared with me is that people need one reason to follow you, but they need many reasons to continue following you. And so the rank, your title, might get people to start following you, but what is going to get people to continue following you? It's your character. It's how you lead. It's your principles. It's your continued leading by example, your moral authority. It's your compassion, right? And because I was young and I was immature and rich, and I was still a good person, but I had a big ego. I figured, I'm like, well, I'm a top earner. You should just follow me. And when our organization started to crumble due to some really kind of horrific situations and bad decisions by the company, we started to see the entire company start to crumble. And so leaders started to leave. We started getting attacked by the industry, and it was a really stressful time. And for a while, I couldn't understand, because I was still making a ton of money. All the top leaders were still making a ton of money. Like, why were these people leaving? Because they found one reason to follow us, and they didn't see any reason to stay. All we were big head honcho peacocking types that believed that our ish didn't stink, that we were awesome, and that if they would be crazy not to follow us, when we didn't take the time to realize what their goals are, their wants, to pour into them, to add value to them. And so guys, it's not about the rank. It's not about being the manager or the title or throwing the title. Or it's kind of like being like a doctor, or no offense to doctors, to people that have like the letters after your name. Like, that matters only if they know that you care. And that reminds me of an amazing Maya Angelou quote: people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And so my number one leadership mistake was pulling rank. Okay, number two, and this was fighting for number one. They were battling it out, but you know, they're not in like any specific order. But number two, leadership mistake that I made was not setting proper expectations. This again was lack of maturity and experience in leadership on my part, that realizing that in every mentoring relationship, you got to set the proper expectations. I mean, don't you guys do this with your kids? Like, you're taking your young kids into an adult, you know, nice fancy restaurant, and you sit them down in the car, and I would assume that this is how it goes. Like, I have bulldogs. We don't really, you know, sit them down and like give them the talking to, but I would assume that you set proper expectations with your kids, sometimes with your spouse or the person that you're dating. Setting expectations is so huge for any successful relationship, and I failed to do so in the beginning. This is why it was one of the most heartbreaking things in my entire career. I'll give you guys two phenomenal examples. I had two leaders that in my prior company that I had done a lot for. Let's just say that I had helped build the organization, placed a ton of volume under them, spent loads of money investing in them and their team. I basically sacrificed it all for these two leaders, two very different leaders, two different circumstances, two different countries even, and they were good friends. And so I did whatever I could, like, you know, helping them. And then it got to a point in our, you know, business where you guys heard things were really declining and things were really crazy, that I had to go and take my time and effort away from them, and I had to go start to focus over here. Now, when that happened, guys, because I had not built with systems and technology and high-level leadership like I do now, I was the guy. I mean, the girl. I was the girl, right? And so sometimes you guys are building, you're the guy, you're the girl, you're the it person, you're the fire in the organization. And when I left those teams, I was the fire, so the fire went out. So the teams began to unravel. There was no true leadership because I had built ranks and not leaders. And so here I was in a relationship with these leaders on my team, and I began to try to coach them, right? Their business is failing. I'm like, get back into phase one, start recruiting, let's rebuild. And you know, I'm trying to mentor them through this process, and they weren't having it. they were PO. They were pissed, right? They were so upset. And I didn't understand why. I went from the angel, somebody that they really respected, or so I thought, and that they loved, or so I thought, and then them all of a sudden being super mad, and I couldn't quite understand it. And so I sat down with John. We had a John C. Maxwell, and we had a private breakfast, and we had a chance to ask all our questions. There's like 6 or 8 of us at this breakfast. And I asked him, I explained the story, and I'm going into all this detail, and he's like, you're gonna keep talking about it and give me, because I already know the answer, you wanna keep talking it out? That's how John is, by the way. He's very like straight to the point. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna shut up now. Tell me what I did wrong. And he said, listen, you're like the carousel or the roller coaster, like, you were giving these guys a ride. Like, you were literally giving them a ride of their life. Like, you know, they were making all this money, making 6 figures, and you were doing it all for them. And you had not set proper expectations of a mentor-mentee relationship. So when things got tough and you began to coach them, they're like, well, who are you to coach me? Who are you to share? And again, it goes back to number 1. I thought, hey, well, my rank precedes me. But truthfully, they were mad. And John said this. He goes, the ride stopped. And so they're mad. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. The ride stopped. So not only did I did not set any expectations of how our relationship would work, what I expected of them, what they could expect out of me, creating that relationship, that bond where I could come into their life and coach them, critique them, show them, okay, this is your blind spot you're not seeing, because I didn't set that expectation. My reviews, helpful reviews of them, did not fall on really accepting ears, okay? So that was my leadership mistake number 2, was not setting proper expectations. And you can bet your bottom dollar that I over adjusted on this one, and that every single new person that I get started and work with, they know exactly what it's gonna be like working with me, how to get in touch with me, how our coaching style is going to be, what I'm gonna do, what I'm not gonna do. I over explain now because I don't want disappointment. That was my leadership mistake number 2. And finally, leadership mistake number 3 that I've made was being, in the beginning, way too skill focused and not as much people focused. Or it could be also kind of said more me focused than other focused, right? So in the beginning, what I thought that if I raised my skill enough, if I became the top recruiter, the top leader, if I just was the best at everything, and even like studying leadership and like reading all the books, I figured like that would be enough. And then I realized, guys, that I was like super highly trained on all these things, but nobody around me was also winning. Nobody knew that I cared. I was so focused on my own self, while not focused on other people and not focusing on the true amazing asset of our business, the number 1 asset, which is the people. The number 1 asset is your tribe. And so what I realized, I'm like, okay, it is important for personal growth. And there's been seasons in my life where I spend 1, 2, 3 hours a day into personal or spiritual development, emotional intelligence, things to grow me. But what I realized that sometimes like the skills, like the perfect script or the perfect strategy, is like minuscule importance in understanding the soul, the human connection, understanding your team and their whys and their goals and their dreams, and understanding the psyche and the personality of all of the 7.5 billion people, right, on this planet. So I switched from trying to be so skill focused and so amazing and polished with my words to just trying to understand my people and trying to love my people. And instead of being the best, I wanted to help them become the best. And it was a shift in my life. And I always love to reference Dr. Wayne Dwyer, who he talks about that in the morning of your life, it's all about me. And in the afternoon of your life, it's all about we. But I really neglected in the beginning to realize that I was in a people business, that I needed to love them, forgive any past hurts that I had with people, move on, and really work on myself to become an amazing, attractive personality that could attract and retain people. So I learned and I practiced connecting with people, empathizing with people, working any issues with me that was blocking that, right? Because sometimes we've gone through so much in our life that we can't lead people effectively because we got a lot of past pain. So guys, don't just read the books. Don't just focus on the perfect scripts. I want you guys to focus on loving people, leading with love, lifting them up, and helping them get what they want, because then you're gonna have everything that you want. So that's it, guys, my first episode of RJTV. If you guys got any value out of this, I'm gonna ask you guys to do me a favor, subscribe, comment below, give me a thumbs up, and share this video, because there's chances are there's somebody in your network that is making key leadership mistakes and they don't even know it, and this can save them a boatload of heartache. So thank you guys so much from all of us here at Soul CEO. God bless, and we'll see you soon.